Hi, stereo bus compression. I love stereo bus compression. I always use it almost, I would say, 7 or 8 times out of 10 times I am using a stereo bus compressor in my mixing work. Whether the meter on a stereo bus compressor is moving so I can barely even see it move, or whether I'm hitting somewhere on the other extreme, 5, 6, 7, 8 dB, 9 dB, whatever it takes to make that mix sound great. A stereo bus compressor can really bring the glue and the cohesion and the pumping and just the energy to a record that you're doing. Here's the catch though. Not always am I going to use a stereo bus compressor only for this reason. When I have a stereo bus compressor going and I've got all the instrumental elements of a mix feeling good, smacking, the drums are feeling right, the keyboards, the guitars, everything's just like right there, and I go, wow, this is awesome. Once I get the lead vocal up in the mix and the background vocals, suddenly that mix is not going to be pumping the same way, and you're going to find what you really loved about the stereo bus compression and what it was bringing to the instrumental mix before the vocals were added will be lost or diminished greatly. So what I do is I will have often for pop records, hard-hitting pop records, for EDM type records, hip-hop records, what I'll do is I will have two buses going, one with all the instrumental information in a mix going into one bus, and I'll compress that however way I want, and I will have all the vocals go to another secondary bus with its own compressor. Sometimes not, but a lot of times I will use its own compressor as well. So basically I've got an instrumental bus being compressed, and I've got a vocal bus being compressed. And what that does is it allows me the freedom to balance the vocals and do whatever I want, whatever volume I want, whatever, without destroying the great sound on the instrumental component of your mix. A lot of times the reason this happens is because a lot of the rhythmic elements in an instrumental mix will not be the same rhythm that the vocals are doing. So if a mix is really doing a really cool pump thing, the vocal will be opposite that, or in collision, I'll say, with that movement of the mix. So if you want the freedom, you're going to have to work to get the vocal on its own to sit as if it was being compressed and sound like a glued, cohesive record. That'll take a little bit of time to do that, because you want the vocal to be, of course, standing up in the mix loud and proud. However, what a stereo bus compressor will do a lot of times is bring the vocal inside the mix. And a vocal needs to be up front, but it also needs to be part of the record. So you might find that it'll take a little more time, a little more work to get your vocal rides exactly where you want it, as if it was part of a stereo compressed mix. So that works for me a lot. It'll probably work for you. So if you're struggling, use that, and I think you'll have results that you're really blown away with. Another thing, just to throw in there, what I find that when you're dealing with, I'll say, dense productions, a lot of times a stereo bus compressor or two things are not going to be the best choice. So what I'll do a lot of times is get the drums really compressed and pumping, or the drums and bass really pumping, and then you can place everything around that uncompressed within a final two bus that's not compressed. And that'll give you a sound that is really exciting, and you'll have the freedom to ride whatever dynamics you want to do in that case as well. And make sure to ride your stereo bus fader. That's a fader too. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll split off a stereo bus fader into 3 or 4 faders. And I'll have different processing on each one, or at the very least, different volumes on each one. And I'll flip between a verse and a B section and a chorus, or a middle 8. And that'll give a record, the more of a payoff, more dynamics, more interest, different panning things, different equalizers. You could even use different compressors on that, just to give the feeling of seeing changes happening throughout a record to make sure that the record is an exciting journey and dynamic and really engages the listener. So hope that helps. Thanks for being here. Thanks for checking this out, and all the best.